Hey guys, thanks for joining me for this 29th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests for this episode include actress Kyla Kenedy. She plays Orly in Mr. Mayor. The season finale comes up this Thursday night, 8 Eastern, 7 local time on NBC. We'll also visit with the former commanding officer of the SEAL Team 2, Mike Hayes. Got a new book, Never Enough, a Navy SEAL commander on living a life of excellence, agility, and meaning. And we'll also visit with Chris Duffin. He's got a book, The Eagle and the Dragon, a story of strength and reinvention. Plus, we'll be talking about his speaking engagements and other ventures. If you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, and of course, share with your friends. Well, today is National Tortilla Chip Day, and somehow none of us got the day off work. I mean, what's up with that, right? Well, in honor of today's very real holiday, a new study looked at Google search data to figure out the most popular dip in every state for tortilla chips or, well, any other kind of chip as well. Now, salsa won the most states with 18. It just beat out guacamole with 15 states. Queso was third with 6 states. Ranch and buffalo chicken dip both won 3 states. Artichoke dip took 2 states, and French onion dip, crab dip, and beer cheese dip each won 1 state apiece. Now, for what it's worth, the state that picked crab dip was Maryland, and the state with beer cheese dip was Wisconsin, so yeah, that checks out. Well, our first guest is actress Kyla Kenedy. She plays Orly in Mr. Mayor, the season finale coming up this Thursday on NBC. First off, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Kyla, tell us what it was like whenever the whole casting process. I mean, how different did it look this time around, trying to go even into the casting auditions, if you will, for Mr. Mayor?
Oh my gosh, the casting process happened. I mean, it feels like 10 years ago. It was pre-COVID, so it feels like a lifetime ago. It was back in the beginning when things were normal. So it was a pretty, it was a normal, go into casting, meet producers. But because of the people involved, it was a very nerve-wracking experience for me just because, obviously idolize everyone that's involved in the project. But thankfully, we got to do, the audition and the screen test pre-COVID, so everything was normal and kind of got to meet before masks were on the face. But we kind of started the journey, and then COVID hit us all, so we all had to kind of navigate that together as a cast and crew.
And Kyla, for you coming in on a new series, and then like you said with the COVID and all that, I mean, did that make melding as a cast? Did that make it a little more difficult this time around?
I mean, it was definitely very strange in the beginning to, navigate working during COVID and, trying to figure out how to make sure everyone felt safe and was being safe. But as a cast, when we took a long break off, obviously for quarantine reasons, when the whole thing started. But as a cast, we stayed in contact with one another just because, as a new series, the more you work with people, the more like a family you become. So, working with people for a few weeks and then just automatically stopping for months could, be a bit difficult, especially when the relationships just started. So we all did weekly Zoom meetings where we, just the cast would go in and see how everyone was doing and what was going on. So when we had come back to start filming again, it had felt like we almost never left, and we all, weirdly enough, felt even closer than we did before, even though we hadn't seen each other in person for months.
And for your character, Orly, the relationship that you have with Ted, Mr. Mayor on the show, how much fun do you have in the appearances that you've got with Ted? I mean, it just seems like you guys are having a blast. Oh,
working with Ted is amazing. He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. And I know that you're supposed to say that, but I truly mean it. I think going on to any show, you're a little nervous to see like who you're going to be working with and like, oh, I hope they like me. But he's the definition of a hug to me. He's just so open and kind and warm and just truly makes everyone feel special and appreciated. So getting to work with him has really, really been amazing.
As you know, we talked so much about how different 2020 was. As a youngster, what was the most 2020 type the thing that you got into last year? Maybe a new technology that you got a hold of this last year.
Oh, I've tried everything. I'm a person who a little bit of everything for 5 minutes at a time. So I ordered myself a yoga mat and started doing some yoga. I got like some paint kits from Amazon, and my mom had gotten like a Nintendo Switch, so I spent many hours watching her play Zelda. So I found lots of myself.
Now, what can our fans expect from Orly and in the coming episodes on Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, so the finale of Mr. Mayor, the season 1 finale, is actually tomorrow. This episode's really, really a fun one. It's actually the first episode of the season where Orly and Arpy really interact and meet. So Neil's dealing with, palm tree maintenance, and Tommy and Michaela are talking with Jaden about possibly being a father. So it's a really, really fun one, and I hope the fans will enjoy it.
And again, Mr. Mayor, the season finale coming up tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, 7 local time. And Kyla, I always want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can keep up with everything you got going social media-wise as well.
I have Instagram and Twitter, which is just my name, Kyla Kenedy. You can follow me on there.
All right. Well, Kyla, it has been great to visit with you this morning. I look forward to the season finale and upcoming episodes as well. And hopefully we can catch up again real soon.
Yes, hopefully. Thank you so much.
Well, if you've never heard of toilet plume before, we'll get ready to freak out for a second, but don't worry, this is good news. Now, toilet plume is the term for tiny, germ-filled droplets that end up in the air when you flush the toilet. And people have been stressing out over it for years because experts are saying that some of that plume can end up on your toothbrush. But a new study found you probably don't have to worry about it. Researchers at Northwestern analyzed the bacteria on 34 used toothbrushes, and they did find a lot of bacteria, but not the type you flush. Now, the vast majority of microbes they found were the type that live in your mouth or on your skin, not in your gut. And some of the bacteria they found also exist in your gut, but they say it's much more likely those particles came from people's mouths than from the toilets. In other words, flushing probably won't fling fecal matter all over your bathroom, and previous studies have found that even if tiny amounts do get on your toothbrush, it's really not a health risk. Well, our next guest is the former commanding officer of SEAL Team 2, Mike Hayes. We'll be talking about the new book, Never Enough, a Navy SEAL commander on living a life of excellence, agility, and meaning. First off, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Thank you for having me, Cameron. Appreciate the time.
Now, the new book, we mentioned author, Never Enough, a Navy SEAL commander on living a life of excellence, agility, and meaning. And Mike, kind of break down the title, if you would, for us a little bit.
Absolutely. The title sounds provocative, and it intentionally is meant to be a touch provocative, but it's not about fame and fortune. It's about meaning and impact. I've lived a life of once-in-a-lifetime experiences in both, the SEALs and running meetings in 2 White Houses and now, part of a large corporation, part of the C-suite at VMware. And look, I'm passionate now about sharing and giving back. I like to say wisdom is just a series of learnings from mistakes over time. And in my 3 decades of experience now in the professional world, I've learned a heck of a lot. And it's really about giving back. I'm donating all of my profits from Never Enough to a charity that I started that pays off mortgages for Gold Star families. I, like all SEALs of my era, have buried way too many friends in our nation's conflicts. And now it's really about helping and giving back.
And Mike, for you, you talk about being in the professional sector after your time in the Navy, and how was the transition, and how much of your training in the Navy is taken in your day-to-day life today?
That's a great question. Truthfully, a lot of the elements are identical. The last the first 95% of every high-performance organization is the same. It's people, it's culture, it's how you work together, it's shared mission. And certainly while the mission of the SEALs is a lot different than any corporation within the U.S., it's certainly you find the parallels. And what's really cool about it is being able to positively impact other people and most importantly to help them to positively impact others and create that nonlinear great effect for companies, but also for families and towns, the state, the nation. Ultimately, why I wrote Never Enough. And there's an audio book also if you just prefer to listen. I did all the reading and narrating myself and just really passionate about sharing these stories from the SEALs and the White House and also some from the private sector.
And folks obviously would say, well, he's a former Navy SEAL. Obviously, he has some leadership qualities. How can we transform that from Navy SEAL to just the average American, if you would?
Well, I like to say leadership is really just identifying a common goal and then knowing the people around you and how to connect those people to that goal. And then that's through both what gets people excited and also what triggers people and gets them frustrated. You know, at the elemental level, we're really all motivated by largely some of the same things. It's some combination of quality of life, opportunity for education or promotion, compensation, et cetera. And then, you know, how do we identify what really makes people tick? Find the intersection of three circles, really. It's what gives you energy, what are you good at, and what does the business need? And really, like when I hire people now, I'm looking, if I'm not threading the center of those three circles, then I've failed as a leader. So I think the real thing about you know, while people can hold up the SEALs and say, gosh, I'm not going to be a SEAL, how could that possibly connect to me? One of the great things I think that I've done is be able to connect and make things relatable to people in all kinds of walks of life and all different professions, because ultimately that's what it's about is helping everybody.
And Mike, to get the feedback from celebrities, other authors, and other sports folks as well, to see that feedback of your writing, how gratifying is it? And maybe it shows you that was a book you were meant to write and get put out, because I know you got to go through those moments where you're like, why am I writing this, right?
There are a lot of hard days, you know. In a quick tangent, it's kind of like, look, we've had a hard the planet and the country and families have had a hard year and more than a year now with what we're going through. And I think the important thing to remember is that when we have a hard day, the best way to get through it is find someone who's having a harder day and help them. And we've all, and so now there, I don't mean to connect, you know, writing with any sort of hard days like a pandemic, but at the same time, writing a book is definitely an act of love. And there were some, you know, long flights where I was like, why am I not watching a Netflix movie instead of pecking away with my thumbs on the keyboard?
Now, what was the biggest challenge? Is it the lead up to the release? What was the biggest challenge in getting the new book out?
The biggest challenge was actually navigating the how open and vulnerable to be in a book. I grew up in the SEALs for 20 years, and I'm in the private sector for 10 years now. So, in my era, really perfection was the thing. It was not okay to show weakness or vulnerability or to do something that wasn't quite right. You kind of tried to minimize that. And so, look, I'll be really candid. Being open was my challenge, and I think that you can't move and influence and share things with people unless you talk about the things that you've done less than well. I like to say in life that all we have is varying levels of ignorance about everything. And I think then, you know, starting with that humility is really a great key. And I think I would say I definitely made an attempt, but I'd leave it up to the reader or the listener of the audiobook to judge whether I've done that successfully.
And again, the book we've mentioned so many times, Never Enough. Mike, I want to make sure and let folks know where to find more information about the book, purchase it, and also everything you've got going social media wise as well.
Absolutely. So again, Never Enough. Wherever you buy books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, the Indies, Books A Million, etc. You just Google Never Enough and Mike Hayes or Never Enough and SEAL. You'll find the book. And then my Twitter is @thisismikehayes, and I'm on LinkedIn. And at the end of the day, I just want to emphasize that I'm donating all of my profits again to the nonprofit that I started, paying off mortgages for Gold Star families. There's no bet. My foundation has paid off 5 houses so far. I'm actually literally today wiring money to buy a house for a woman who lost her husband in the middle of the war in Afghanistan and then lost her business in the pandemic, and her 4 kids didn't have a home. And, this is what life is about, and the ability to look one of these widows in the eye and say, hey, I'm sorry, it's hard, but it's awesome to say, hey, you've got a home now, and that's where all of my profits are going. And I just really appreciate the opportunity and the support from everybody for Never Enough.
Again, the book, Never Enough, a Navy SEAL commander on living a life of excellence, agility, and meaning. Mike Hayes, great to visit with you this morning. I hope you have a continued great rest of your week, and we can catch up again real soon.
Cameron, thank you, sir, and thank you for all you do for this great nation.
Well, the phrase mind-blowing gets thrown around a lot on the internet, but this truly deserves it. There's a TikTok video that's going viral right now from a woman who said she just found out that the chance of rain in a weather forecast doesn't mean what we have always thought it means. Now, 30% does not mean there's a 30% chance it's going to rain. That 30% is based on what the chances that it's going to rain are multiplied by the percentage of the area that will get the rain. So 50% in the forecast doesn't mean there's a 50-50 chance it will rain. It means there's a chance rain will happen in the area multiplied by how much of the area will probably get that rain. So if a meteorologist is 50% sure there will be rain that covers 80% of the local area, that would come out as 40% on the weather forecast. Our final guest here on the podcast, I reached out as I saw the world record holder for deadlift, but he's also got a couple other slashes behind that. Entrepreneur, author, inventor, Chris Duffin on with us today. And first off, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, looking forward to some good conversation, Cameron.
Now Chris, tell us, we also got a book to talk about, the Eagle and the Dragon, and it's actually by chance. I actually sat down, and whenever the camera looked at me, I saw I've got my Eagle shirt on by chance today.
Oh, perfect.
The Eagle and the Dragon, did you know that you had a story to share a long time ago? Or was this maybe something somebody else kind of spurned you into?
It is something that I've known has been there for a long time. I mean, obviously, as I lived the life that I had, I knew it was outside of the scope of the norm. And it just got to a point I started sharing my stories as I became more of a public figure, and just the short pieces that I would share, I'd end up getting these really powerful messages back from people, how it connected to them, had an impact on their life. And finally, I'm like, I need to sit down and like put together all of this and the lessons that I've learned and my take on those things based on, the kind of the wild ride I've had during my life.
Now, what was it inside of you that knew to battle through no matter what the situation was in your life?
I think it was just the fact that there was no other way but to do that. I mean, it's when you're sitting there and everybody is failing, either literally dying, going to prison, drug abuse, all these sorts of issues, that's all you see. And it's like, there's no other option but to do this. I don't have a couch to fall back on if I'm not successful or between jobs. There's nowhere to turn. And not only that, but I had my sisters to care for. And so that was probably the bigger thing. I think it's that survivor mentality, right? Where when you're responsible for someone else, it forces you to step up to the plate. It forces you to get out of the pity, the whatever area that we're in, because not only you've got to be present, not just for your success, but you've got to be present for them and put on that face and make sure that you're driving forward.
Now, how has the feedback been since COVID kicked off, however you want to put it? Everybody's dealing with something. I mean, we're all dealing with something, and we can use any excuse that we want for the situation we're in, or we can strive to get better be in spite of it, right? Yeah.
I mean, and that is really the principle behind that is, it is a challenging world right now, and it has been for a lot of people. Just the stress, the emotional toll that that it's been taking on everyone. But at the same time, this is not something that is your doing. It's we're defined by our actions and responses to the things that happen to us, to our environment. And that's the beautiful thing, is every single day you get to decide who you are and how you present yourself in the world, and who you and more specifically who you want to be, and becoming that person. And yeah, there's challenges that we all face. And my book isn't written to be like, oh, woe is me, my life's worse than anyone else, which is not the case. We all have shit to deal with. We've all got that baggage. I'm reflecting on this piece I did called The Shit Bucket Story a number of years ago. But we've all got our own shit bucket. And no one's is worse than anybody else's. But that is, over the scope, like mine has had a vast scope of lows to highs to just a lot of different scope that I've covered in my life, that allows me to have a unique perspective that most people haven't seen, because they haven't gone from, living homeless, heating up their water in the sun, killing animals, and living on beams lashed into the trees, and learning how to catch and handle rattlesnakes at 6 years old.
Wow.
To raising their siblings while they put themselves through school, and becoming a corporate turnaround executive where I was running aerospace and automotive manufacturing companies, to walking away from all that and becoming an entrepreneur and building a global brand in a matter of a few years. Like, that has given me a lot of perspective on life and a lot of different situations that I think allows me the ability to add my advice, my philosophy, my perspective, because I'm not going to tell anybody how to live, what's right or what's wrong. But what we need to do is be able to look inward and know how to ask the right questions to really draw out, what do we want to in life? And a lot of people, you say that and they'll go, I want to be an NFL star, I want to be a millionaire, I want to be. No, that's not it. This is a discussion of pull those, that's a rough outer layer, and just keep diving and peeling away those layers till you get to this thing that are not things anymore. They are, I want to live a life with security, with a sense of accomplishment, with recognition, with continual learning, whatever they are, right? And these are the things that maybe you can realize via those other things that you think that you want in life. But now you can start creating a life that can actually realize that you can set goals that can help you actualize a life that lives those values. And there's so many ways. You break your knee on a random Thursday, Sunday afternoon playing flag football, and your NFL career is gone. Like, well, is life over? No. If you knew why that was a thing that you wanted, you could go a whole lot of different areas and still live that. And so it's really, it's a long process to get to those things. And they're all kind of always shifting a little bit. But I honestly get so frustrated when people want to talk about their bucket list, and they're like, that's fancy glitter that's catching your eye, and you're going, I got to have my 100 things. I got to have my, like, freaking bullshit. You need 5 to 7 things in life. Like, and by the way, the ones I listed are like part of mine. I use those examples, right? I no right or wrong. Like, I want to have recognition for the things that I do, but I also do it because I also want a sense of accomplishment. I want challenge. I want those things in my life, but I also want to inspire, and I want to help people achieve more than they thought possible. And like, oh, I got that now. Can you see why I do some of the things that I do? Like the big feats of strength, and the other stuff is but it's also just as valuable as like coaching and mentoring, because I'm having that same effect, right? And I can also walk away from that. Like, I did this thing. So right at the beginning of COVID, well, it's actually took me 6 years to do. Well, technically like 30 years. But I decided I want to do this incredible over the top feat. It's going to be in a movie, by the way. They're doing a documentary on it. I said, I want to be the only person that's ever squatted and deadlifted 1,000 pounds. And it was so big and nasty that, and I actually wanted to do it for reps, that I couldn't tell anybody. I just said, I want to deadlift 1,000 pounds. And I was like, you're crazy. So I went and I deadlifted 1,000 pounds. And as I started getting there, people were like, you're strong enough to do it. Like, why aren't you doing it? Well, my goal was to do it for reps. Still the standing Guinness World Record. And I did that when I was 39 years old. And then it took me another 4 years, 5 years, I have to do the math, to do the other half of that. I said, I wanted to squat 1,000 pounds. I didn't tell anybody I wanted to squat it for reps until it got close and people realized just where I was at. And so I actually had to disclose that one at that point in time. People didn't think I was crazy anymore. And so literally 2 days before the lockdown, it was supposed to be at this big expo in San Diego, but that got canceled, obviously, at the very last, like right before we're supposed to board flights, rescheduled as a local event, which then got canceled because of a number of people, and so live streamed it literally right before everything shut down. But I squatted 1,001 pounds for 3 reps. And so I forgot where I was going with this. Just anyway, I'm wearing this shirt. It says grand goals, but that's like what it's just grand, over the top, but really just to show people that you can chase wild, freaking crazy things in your life. And if you go all in, you can pull off so much more. I couldn't even tell people what my goal was at the front because I would be laughed at. And understand, I was ranked number 8 in the world, or number 1 in the world for 8 years straight as a powerlifter before I went that. So it wasn't like I was nobody. But then I said, that's it. I'm done heavy lifting. Wow. That was the point I was trying to make. Because I know why I did that. And I didn't have the, what you see with a lot of professional athletes or things when they get to the end of their career and they go, well, they kind of get lost in themselves. They may, gain weight, have depression, whatever it is. Not everyone, but it's actually pretty prominent, right? Mm-hmm. Because that was who they defined themselves as, and they did, who am I? And it was like, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to come back. You're going to do another. And I was like, what's the next feat? What's the next feat? And I've been getting that a lot actually on my social media lately. And I'm like, well, it's to change the face of fitness. That's what I'm doing now. Like I have these huge, crazy goals for what I want to do in reshaping the fitness world and its integration with clinical care, because there's so many broken elements, and I'm literally going to change the face of it by the time I'm done. And I'm already leaving a big mark on it, but it's the same. That's why I can walk away from those other things, because this is my new grand goal. Like this is my challenge, my accomplishment, my, and then I'm doing, my speaking, my videos on philosophy, the other side now for the inspiration instead of the physical, like walk the walk.
Now, who was the inspiration behind the lifting, the bodybuilding, the strength conditioning? Where did that come in your life? Who inspired you to that?
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of grew up in the mountains, right? So very physical in nature. There was 2 things that I had. I didn't have a radio. I didn't have a TV. I had a flashlight and I had a candle and I had a library card. And I had stacks of books that the whole family, we were just really well read. My father was a member of Mensa. My mom was, had a scholarship to be a chemical engineer when she decided that she just didn't want to be part of the world. They were artist crazy types. And so they made the choice to live the lifestyle that they lived. But being well read, being smart, that was like always like expected. But I also grew up in a very physical environment. Cutting wood, stacking, climbing up the side of mountains when we're mining with packs full of rocks, like that sort of stuff. And so that's always been like an outlet for me to have that. And so I started lifting when I was about 12-ish years old, I think. I'm like, I really want to balance, like I'm as this quiet, introverted kid. I lived in a trailer down by the river. My clothes weren't clean. I smelled funny. I didn't have friends because I changed schools 20 times. I was the epitome of not only unpopular, but the opposite of that. And, but I was the smart guy in the classroom. And so I'm like, I was already physical, and I'm like, I need to balance this with lifting as well. And so I started lifting, and I took to it naturally because I grew up in a very physical environment, and it started really helping me from that mental side, the growth in my self-esteem, this connection and outlet, for some of the turmoil and things that I was dealing with behind closed doors in my head, right? And I started doing well in sports, and all this started adding up to really kind of have a really profound impact on me. And it's something that never left me. Outside of about a year and a half in college, when I got, pretty crazy with work and drinking and just too much of that was the only break I ever had in my life from lifting. And so that's just always been there. And then in 2000, I was training. I was a manager. Oh God, I had like 100 employees and several different shifts at a high-tech company making circuit boards. Mm-hmm. And I was training at a gym right around the corner. I was raised in one of my sisters at the time as well, of course. And she might have been two. But there was a couple bodybuilders in the gym, and they were just bigger than me. They were massive, and they looked better. And I ran circles around them. And I'm like, you know what? Someday I'm just going to go do a bench press competition to say I've competed something in that area, because obviously bodybuilding is not my thing. Right. Because I don't have the genetics. Like, I'm stronger. I can outwork these guys, but they're prepping for a show and they look way better than me. And so I went, and I found a competition. It was a bench press and a deadlift. I'm like, well, I guess I better figure out what a deadlift is. It was like 6 weeks beforehand. I went and competed, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to be involved with this for the rest of my life. It was just this thing that clicked. And so I did that competitively till 2015. And like I said, I set some all-time world records. I was ranked number one. I was well known in that arena. Took me a while to get there. I'm a bit slow. I kind of build into things. So I hit the peak of my career in my late 30s before I decided to basically throw everything in my life up into upheaval. That's when I walked away from my career. That's when I walked away from competitive lifting. I walked away from my marriage, not my kids, but at the time. And I realized, that's the second half of the book, is really this higher level. The first half of the book is all about examining oneself, understanding your strengths, what you can accomplish in this world, the eagle that can fly to whatever heights that it's capable of. So for my eagle, I've got a giant eagle across my stomach, and it's shackled down to my ankle. It used to be another eagle on my back, but it's covered by the dragon now. And I got that done at 20 years old, representing that you could accomplish whatever you want in life. You can fly to whatever heights. The only thing holding you back at the end of the day is yourself. Well, the second half of the book is more purposeful. And that's like, I found myself, I was living in a house with a white picket fence. I had a sought after career that, people would try to recruit me all the time to do. I was known for what I did, made great income, owned a couple houses, had vehicles, and I owned a gym on the side, and I was competing at a high level, and the kids were getting a bit older. And I'm like, why am I unhappy? And also realizing like something has to break. Something has to give, because kids are getting older. They're going to get involved in sports. I need to be more present and there for them. I have to create more time in my life. But I also, lack passion, in some areas of my life as well. And upon that reevaluation, I decided that I was going to take kind of my gift of knowledge around biomechanics. I developed relationships with some of the smartest minds in in the world of research and clinical application of a lot of things and related to spinal management, foot mechanics, all sorts of things, and how that works as a developmental kinesiology approach to the whole body. I'm like, I knew what I loved. I loved helping people live a better life.
Right.
That's what I loved in my leadership career, was being able to have the impact that I did on my employees and get them to take on more and accomplish it, and then realize and start doing more other things in their life, and just doing, like, I just feed on that. And I'm like, but like, I'm putting videos out right now, and those videos are changing some people's lives, like getting them out of pain that's been debilitating for years. And like, I have so much that I can do in this space. And I've been debating, I'm like, should I go back to school and be a doctor? And I knew a lot of doctors, and the common story I got was no.
Please don't.
Yeah, you know 98% of what you're going to learn in school, and you're going to get frustrated about everything that you know that's wrong, because you know the people that are writing the books on the material, and they're going to be 20 years behind in school. And question is, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, I don't want to affect one person at a time anymore. I want to have this huge impact. And so, do you need a degree if you're going to be the teacher? And I'm like, no. Okay. So I leveraged everything that I had, lost all my retirement, sold my homes. Obviously, I decided to make some personal changes as well. So, I wanted to have passion in everything about my life. I wanted to have passion in my work. I wanted to be making a change in the world that I cared about. And I wanted to have passion in my relationships. I wanted to have, I wanted more. And so I leveraged myself through everything that I had to the wind, and signed on for millions of dollars in personal liability if the business has failed, so basically I'd be living in an apartment the whole rest of my life if I failed, and never, if I went back to my old career. It's not like, oh, you can go back, and be like, I'd still be paying all that back for the failure. And I went all in, and man, it's been something different. It's I've been able to create an environment that literally draws the people that have the same values, the same environment. It's just completely upended my life, because I go to work and it's my people time. I don't have to schedule I've drawn my friends, things like all this together. And in fact, I drew an amazing woman into my life, and I'm remarried with a third child now, and have just I didn't know what they talk about in the movies and you read in books. I thought it was just this fake thing. And then at 40 years old, I discovered, oh shit, that's real.
It does exist.
Okay. I was not expecting that. And someone that, I can share this, this journey on, and that we can collaborate and figure out how to move forward together on this. And man, it's been crazy. And I created so much time for my kid. I kid you not, I went from, because I had a crazy high-powered executive career. Then I'd go train people at my gym that I own, and then I'd go home and try to spend time with the kids, and then try to have some hobby time on the weekend. I spend probably at least 4 hours a day more with my family than I did before.
That's awesome. Because
of how I've reframed my life and my work life, but at the same time, I've worked harder and more than I've ever worked before. I don't know how to explain it, but it's getting everything aligned so that every piece and component of it is actually adding some value towards those values, that way that I want to live. So there's no wasted effort or time. It's a beautiful thing. I had to create it. I had to create my own little world, but
Now tell us a little bit about, I want to make sure, is Kabuki Strength. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Kabuki Strength.
Tell us how that has gone, especially so many struggled in 2020. How do you keep the doors open and the lights on, if you will?
Yeah, so Kabuki Strength, and I've got Barefoot Athletics, which makes a minimalist shoe based on foot mechanics, and Build Fast Formula, which is my supplementation. And so, but Kabuki Strength is like, that's my main thing.
Right.
We've got 50 employees here. It's growing constantly. And so Kabuki Strength makes the best biomechanically sound training equipment in the world. And we also do coaching and education. And we really think of ourselves as this education company first, which is no other manufacturer is framed that way. We're an authority in the industry because of those relationships, the principles, but we have principles around what we believe in movement and loading. And then our equipment and our coaching and all that come out of these educational principles. And that's made this equipment that is unlike anything that anybody's seen before. And it offers, it gets joints in better position so that we're the load that we create, the stress that we put on the body is the good time that we can adapt to and become stronger, more resilient versions of ourselves physically, right? It accommodates for variation. We don't stuff everybody into one box. We all have different lever arms. We all have different mobility amounts. We all have different needs for our training. And so in 5 years, we have grown to, we're used by, well, let's say Major League Baseball. There's 2 teams we don't work with.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
Okay. All major league sports in North America, 90% of them we work with, those teams.
Wow.
Colleges. This metric is like 2 years old, but we work with every major college, by the way, plus 600 plus more. All right. Famous actors, figures. Well, LeBron, well, he's got our stuff at his home gym, at his trainer's gym, at the Lakers. Oh, and so does the rest of the starting line there. Thor from Game of Thrones, big strong man. He uses, well, all those top strong, they all use our stuff. He's just like the big, the movie presence right. person. The Rock, he has our stuff in every one of his gyms and the mobile gyms that shoot on site. That's the type of impact that we've had in this short period of time. So COVID has created some challenges for us. Obviously, as a whole, it's been positive for the fitness industry because one, a lot of people realize how much their health is actually, that's one of the best things that you can do is just be healthier, right? So that if you get it or when you get it,
yeah.
It's gonna exactly right. That it's proven. I'm not making stuff up. Like your instance of your recovery is going to be better. The chance that you can you're gonna die from it is like significantly reduced. Like, yeah, it's good. Well, this is the whole foundation of like my life and what I try to preach in this, my book. My book is around the mental and emotional sides of like, you can take stress and you can adapt to it and become a stronger, more resilient person. And training is the same way, right? Okay. Yeah. If you go to the gym and you do some curls, you get a stronger, more resilient arm. If you break your arm and put it in a cast, it starts to atrophy and you start to die. Same thing happens if you don't have challenge and conflict or things that in your life. Find those things. Okay?
Don't avoid them.
Because if you don't, sometime it's going to come at you and you're not going to be prepared and it's going to knock you over. And that's what happens. And that's what COVID's doing, both, to physically to people, but also to a lot of other things in the world that it might be social structures, economic, all these sorts of things that weren't prepared for that change, right? For us, it's been challenging because of able to deal with our vendors and launch new products and being able to go in, and we end up getting in a situation where we're incredibly past due to our customers, and it's really hurting our brand image because we consumed literally all of the plating capacity, the finishing of our barbells within our state. And we couldn't see it coming because we couldn't be in and see what's happening with our vendors. And now we're having to send stuff to states around us to get caught up. It is, there's just a lot of different things that start happening as a whole. it's been positive because more people are building home gyms, things like that. And our equipment was actually, our design philosophy has been around things that actually fit this environment. I've not been a big believer in the all-purpose gym and these mass amounts of people buried in there, and one size fits all is what they're meant to be.
Right.
I think that things should be cultured and catered for specific needs for specific environments. And that's what our products are able to be used for, and they can be tailored for those needs in those areas. So it's been really great for us because people now understand like what we're creating, which works in small modular environments. But at the same time, like getting out, I mentioned all those teams. Well, the other two remaining MLB teams would be customers if I was able to get out and do visits this last year, right? Just the ability to get in and show people and connect and do that stuff. We're relying 100% on somebody watching a video or connecting to something on the website, where our stuff is literally, you've got to feel it. Yeah. And once you feel it, you know it. There's no sales. It's like, this works. This delivers results. So that's really made that a bit of a challenge for us. But as a whole, I think it's been a big eye-opening for a lot of people on how you look at life, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, Chris, again, I want to make sure and let folks know not only about the book and then any websites about Kabuki, any of the other businesses you'd like to mention as well.
Yeah. So I'm a pretty easy person to find. Everybody's got, you're probably listening to this on a little device on your hand that you can just type my name in on. I'll pop up. It's not super complicated. So don't worry about getting things perfectly right. But chrisduffin.com or christopherduffin.com has a link to all my website and a link to a free audio download of my book, which I actually read myself. It's on Audible. If you already have an account there, you can get it with a credit. But if you sign up through the site, you get my book plus another book for free, which is a really great resource and why I put it on there. But it's on Amazon and other stuff as well. Kabuki Strength, Kabuki Strength. But again, you can find those all on my website. Social media, on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Mostly LinkedIn and Instagram. A lot of visual media is what I produce. Right. LinkedIn, because I deal with so many professionals in the clinical and sports performance world. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, what? Why LinkedIn? I'm like, well, think about my audience. Right. But Instagram, pretty easy. And so I talked about education. We drop free education daily on some of our accounts. So we've got a YouTube that we drop free content on daily, and it is top notch. You're not going to find anything at the level that we're producing. And it's going to work for everyone. This isn't for how to squat 1,000 pounds. This is for how to move in space with some load in any sort of training environment, to live a better quality of life, to get out of back pain, to this is what we do. If you're a 65-year-old grandmother that wants to pick up, your grandkid off the floor and hold it in the arms, and you can't because you're in back pain, that's what we do. We help people live a better quality of life and remove pain and help develop resilience. So, but we've got a main account on Instagram, which is our company account, but there's also a virtual coaching one. If you can find this stuff, it'll pop up, and we drop the education on there daily as well. So some really great resources. I highly recommend people check it out. But follow me on social media. I'm almost always dropping some stuff out there that's entertaining or educational.
There you go. Well, Chris, great to visit with you today, man. I know we actually went over time I had allotted. A great visit with you. I look forward to hopefully catching up again maybe later this year.
Yeah, let's do that. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks again for joining me for this 29th episode in Season 2 of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, a question, or anything else you'd like to know, find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at GQ with Cam. If you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. If you have a special guest idea, email me, gqwithcam@gmail.com. Thanks again to Brandon Allen for coming up with the theme music for Good Questions. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Wednesday. Join me tomorrow for episode 30.